Hello, I'm Wendy Honig, the artistic director of Boca International Jewish Film Festival. We're here with the director of Whitewash, Efrat Lachter. And I just want to tell you a little bit about Efrat before we go on. Efrat Lachter is the director of Whitewash and is an investigative journalist, filmmaker, and war correspondent contributing to Fox News, Israel's Channel 12 News, and the weekly news magazine Friday Studio. She has directed and produced over 200 documentary segments across more than 40 countries. She is the recipient of the 2022 Shimon Peres Center for Peace Award. Lachter is also a 2023 through 24 Knight Wallace Journalism Fellow at the University of Michigan. She holds a bachelor degree in communications and a master's degree in political science. Well, welcome, Efrat. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I just have to say to our audience that Efrat was supposed to be with us, but she went skiing, and she had a little accident, and she can't be with us. So we're going to interview her by Zoom.
Yes. Well, thank you
Efrat,
for that. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm
Uh,
so sorry I can't make it. I was really looking forward to be there with,
uh,
and I can't tell you how much. So this is really
mm.
unfortunate, but at least, we get to speak this way.
At least our audience gets to meet you. So what effort, what first drew you to this story? And at what moment did you realize it needed to be a film rather than just an investigative report?
That's an excellent question. So just again, thank you so much for having me. And I think this is going to be after people watch the film, right? This is after the film.
Yes, correct. After.
So I just want to say first thing that I really appreciate everyone who came, because it's been such a hard journey. And what was really hard about it was the feeling that we're in this world that people don't see and don't know anything about. And we felt like, how can that be possible? And the fact that people are sitting and watching it for more than an hour and getting an inside look into this really horrible, horrific world that the girls that you just saw are living in every day. It's so meaningful, and it really gives me a lot of hope. And I know it's a victory for the girls as well because they were nameless for so long. So first of all, I want to say thank you for that. And as for your question, which is really excellent, I felt like this story is just too complicated to tell it in 20-minute segment or 15 minutes or an article. And I know that, they always say that a good storyteller can tell a story in 3 minutes or in an hour. But in this case, I felt there were so many nuances and there's so much to tell. And we've been filming for a very long time. Over a very long time period. So I felt like this is a film, and I remember going to my editor at the time and saying, "Listen, I'm gonna work on a documentary film, and it can be a television story in the end, but this is a journey that I have to go and see what we can get from, and it's not gonna be a short one." And I think it proved to be right. It was very hard to edit it into an hour and 7 minutes. We had rough cuts of an hour and a half and even more. So even that was compromising.
So, as a journalist, you're trained to follow facts. As a filmmaker, you must also shape narrative and emotion. How did you balance the investigative rigor with cinematic storytelling?
Well, I have to say that is thanks to the cinematographer that was with me and was very helpful in reminding me this is a documentary and not an investigative story per se, because it really is my DNA as a journalist. But on the other hand, you can't stay distant in the story, right? You come very attached to the people you follow, and you have to give them more room. And also, I'm used to being in front of the camera, in many of my stories. And here I had an amazing experience being in the room and just watching and letting things happen without getting involved, without heavily directing them. And I felt like that's the right thing to do in a story. And it was such a great experience that I went on and doing another film actually.
Oh, well, maybe, I usually ask that at the end, but since you brought it up, tell me what you're working on.
Well, I'm now at the editing stage. We're fundraising for the editing. I'm working on a documentary since October 7th. I wasn't in Israel at the time. I was at a Night Wallace Fellowship at Michigan University, a fellowship for journalists. I went back and I felt that I need to do something as an Israeli American, but first and foremost an Israeli, and I need to be involved. And it's more than just reporting, and I have to go through this with something that is meaningful for me as a filmmaker. And I found a story that was very hard to gain the access to. It took a very long time, but it's a story about a Palestinian woman who is really a trailblazer. She's unbelievable. And she was able to find a way to deliver aid, humanitarian aid into Gaza without it being looted by Hamas. And she realized she needed an Israeli partner because she needs help with Israeli authorities since she's a Palestinian. That made it really hard for her. And she reached out to an Israeli humanitarian aid activist and actually the CEO of one of the biggest NGOs in the field, who is also an incredible person and a leader. And he decided that he's going to help her. And I've been following their attempt for the last 2 years. It was successful at times. It wasn't successful at times. It was unsuccessful at times, but it's been a hell of a roller coaster. And it was always, every time I was with them in the room, it gave me some hope for the future of the region. So that is why I felt like I have to keep doing it, although it was a very, very hard film, also from a production point of view. It's very
Well,
hard to film.
when will this film be finished?
Well, once we get the the funding for the editing, we're at that stage right now.
Well, I'm ready to see the screener. So whenever you get it done, please send it to me. I can't wait to see it.
I would love.
Yeah, let me ask you, was there a discovery during your reporting that genuinely surprised you or changed the direction of the film?
Mm. Yes, the short answer is yes. I think every time you go into a project, you don't know how it's going to end, but if I'm totally honest, I was sure that I will have a happy end. I was sure that Nir is going to be able to establish a shelter, and I also thought he will go further and he'll be able to really help fight human trafficking because he did such amazing things on the business side, unbelievable things, also really bad things, but he was able to get things going in this really corrupted system. And I felt like if there's a person who can change, it's him because he knows who he needs to pay off, if I'm saying it, upfront. And we went to this journey and that, mindset that this is going to be a happy ending. And it wasn't, as you all saw, it was far from that. And I think, and the first time we came there, the shelter was thriving and the girls looked so well. And they were talking about having a second chance for life. And it was really hopeful. And then the second time we came, everything started falling apart. And we realized that nothing was like it seemed. So it really changed the story from a story about here's this person who has a very problematic past and is in this search for redemption and is going out of his way to change things and succeeding to even if you have all the motivation and the experience and the knowledge of the system and how we need to move things around at this actually in the most vulnerable way, right? He was exposing himself. He was involved in this, not in a business way, but really fully invested in this. And that's when he failed. So that really changed the trajectory of the film. And actually, honestly, I don't think it's a less important story to tell. In some ways, I think it's even more important.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry.
The film explores themes of accountability and truth. Did you encounter resistance while uncovering this story, and how did you navigate those challenges?
Oh, there were so many challenges. So people don't want the story to be told. Not the authorities in Malawi, obviously not the human traffickers. The people who are abusing the girls and the boys who are trafficked are hunting them. And that's why they're in shelters hiding. So there are many, many people who didn't want us to tell this story. And filming in Malawi, it's not like filming in a liberal place. You've been asked questions all the time. It's very hard to get the camera in the open anywhere we went. So we were constantly stopped by policemen and were asked about what we're doing. And when people figured out what we're doing, we were actually really worried about getting the footage back to Israel. We were worried that someone's just going to take our memory card or something like that. So every night, Itai Raziel, the cinematographer, would sit on the computer and send the footage back to Israel, which is very hard logistically to do, very heavy materials because we were so worried. On the other hand, we did have Nir, who is a consul in Malawi. So we were counting on it that if something went wrong, he will probably be able to pull the strings that we need to get the footage out. But it wasn't easy at all, no. And I'm very experienced in working in places like this, so I cover war zones, and many times I was asked a lot of questions while filming. So we know not to give too much information, and we were able to save everything and get it back.
That's great. So there's an emotional undercurrent in the film that goes beyond politics. What human stories did you feel were most important to highlight?
Mhm. Well, of course, the girls. Um, if you ask me at first, the way I saw it is that Near is the one giving me access to these girls because that's what I was interested in. It's very hard to talk to women who have been sex slaved, and I've done it before in Iraq. I interviewed Yazidi women who were sex slaved by ISIS, and I did it in Sudan in refugee camps, and in Syria and in many, many places, Ukraine. And I feel like it's always such an important story to tell and such a hard one. And when you meet these girls, well, in my work, usually as a journalist, you meet them once. You're not lucky enough to meet them afterwards, and you don't know what kind of effect you had that encounter with them and the fact that they were interviewed for the first time. And this was definitely the human interest story that I wanted to highlight, but I also was really aware of the fact that this needs to be something that is empowering for them. And I was so happy and so worried before the second time we came. I was really worried about how Teresa is gonna react when she sees us again because we met her at that time. You see that scene when she went out and she came to the shelter, and it was so raw, that moment. And she looks straight into the camera and she has this frightened look like, who are you and where are you taking me? And of course, we explained who we are before, and we had a translator, and she said it's okay to film her, but still, you never know because of the language gap, because of the culture gap. And when we came back, she ran to us and she hugged us and she was so happy we came. And she said, I was looking forward for you to come back. Where have you been so long? And turn on the camera, right? She was like really ready to tell her story. Um, so that was an amazing experience. And for me, I feel like, again, these girls who had no identity being trafficked, right? They lost everything. Sometimes their families are the one who sold them. So it's also they don't have a family support, anything. And then they are able to get, to come in the front of the stage and someone takes interest of them, and then a full house in Florida for the screening. It's huge. And that was what I was hoping that we can tell.
So we're so glad that you're here for this. So, in today's media climate, the word truth feels increasingly contested. What do you hope audiences will question or reconsider after watching Whitewash?
Mm, the truth is not black and white. And I think that, again, going back to your first question about why I decided this is going to be a film and not just a TV segment, I feel like, everything is so instant right now, and there is just black and white, and especially when we're talking about the conflict, the Israeli-Gaza conflict, but everywhere, really. It's you're either pro or against, right? There's no middle ground in anything. And I think what this story taught me, I came in and I knew Nir for many years. And I came in very suspicious of him and his motives and why he's doing this. But I learned through him, through his story, how life is complicated. You can be good and bad, right? You can have a really bad past doing horrible things that no one can forget and you can't make it disappear. But then you can also do amazing, incredible things to make someone's future better, like he's saying in the film. And I think that is what's really lacking, this the nuance, the complicity, the fact that, people are, it's not just either or. And I think that is something that really we were able to bring through Nir's character in the film. Um, so that was great, great and
Oh,
different.
yeah. So thank you. That was a wonderful answer. So if you could leave the audiences with one lingering thought as they walk out of the theater, what would that be?
Mm. I think I go to all these really remote places, right? It's like the end of the earth. Nobody goes there, nobody. It's really no man's land. And it seems very, very distant from us. And I had that feeling throughout my career, that I'm going to places that are very different than my own home, either if it's in Israel or in the States. And I think it changed. That feeling has changed for me. And I think that's something that everyone needs to think about, because we always look at this as like something that is very distant from us and can never happen to us. And what happened to me anyway after October 7th, and the fact that women sisters, our sisters were held in captivity and been treated like sex slaves in some of the testimonies reminded me of what I've heard in Africa. And you say that can never happen to us, right? You're coming from such a different world. But this can happen to us. Or anyway, I think that we should look at these things and think of what would we feel like? What would we do if this would happen to us or to someone close to us or in our area? So I think that is something that I would like people to feel, that it's not such a distant, far away story, but it's something that really we should care about. We are all connected, and things that we think that can never happen to us can happen. And the fact that they're far away doesn't mean that we need to care less or forget about them. And I think that human trafficking can actually end. Modern slavery can end. It's something that right now there's so many people who are benefiting from that, and there are people with power, so it keeps on going, but it can change. And if the administration would tell Malawian authorities that they'll sanction them unless they stop human trafficking, that could be huge. That can actually end this. So we have power. We have power to change, and I hope that people have that in mind. Um, and I hope, even if there's one person who's sitting there right now and knows someone who can talk to him about this, that would be very meaningful.
It's so important that you tell this story for all those reasons, and terrific. So, are there any particular scenes or moments in the film that hold special significance for you?
Well, there's so many actually, every minute there and every minute that was cut out. It was such an experience seeing Teresa's father coming. Um, that scene when he comes and she's just falling on the floor and start crying and apologizing. And it really taught me about something about the cultures is coming from. I mean, her father was supposed to protect her in my mind, right? She was so young and she disappeared and he didn't look for her and he didn't save her. And it's very hard to believe that he didn't know what's going on. But then you hear him tell her, I can take the baby, but I can't afford the milk for him. I can't afford to feed him. And, and when I looked at him, I was like, wow, he's also very, very young. Um, and it was really something that struck me. How, again, we're talking about black and white and how things are so complicated. So you can look at it from either way, and they are both victims in this horrific situation. So that was really a scene that was very hard. And also thinking about the boy, because we were there when she was pregnant, and then we were there when she gave birth to her baby, who is so adorable, is so cute and full of life. I'm so happy. And and the cinematographer wanted to adopt him. I mean, we were just in love with the boy, and and I'm thinking about him a lot as well. What kind of life? At first I thought, "Oh, good thing he's a boy. At least he won't have the same destiny as his girl," because we also have Georgina in the film, and she talks about her girl and worried that she will grow up to have the destiny that she had. Um, But then again, also being a boy is not a safe thing there. So those, yeah,
Yeah.
those are
I was just going to
situations.
say how safe are the boys?
Yeah.
Not very.
No, well, they're trafficked for different reasons, usually not for sex slavery, but they are again modern slave. They're working in the fields, in tobacco fields there. Um, so yes, they're also abused. And what's most painful is the fact that we don't know what happened to her, what happened to him. I'm still trying every time I hear someone's going to Malawi, every time Near is there, we're trying to find out what happened to them. Um,
It's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking.
yeah, it's
Efrat, I want to thank you so much for this interview. We are so sorry about your skiing accident, but we're so thankful that you did this interview so that the audience will get to hear from you and see you. I know that they probably have a million questions that they wanted to ask you, but I hope this will suffice for them. And thank you again very much. Really appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. And if anyone has more questions, this is something I'm ready to talk about as much as, there is a demand. So you are welcome to email me or text me or find me on Facebook or social media, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And again, I'm so, so thankful for this opportunity and for you screening this film. And it's not an easy one. But I truly appreciate it. And I think it's if I can talk in their behalf, they appreciate it too. And Neil, of course, he has very strong ties to Florida, as you saw in the film. So for him, it's even more exciting.
Well, thank you very much.